AFMC is really known.
And also make sure
Hello and welcome into this week's edition of AFMC TV. We're so glad you're joining us. Who doesn't love the natural state, and who doesn't love the natural state at this time of year? Fall, crisp, cool in the mornings, hot in the afternoons, makes you want to be outside, maybe even go hiking, spend some time in this great state of ours. And so joining us today is Jayme Mayo to talk about that very thing, how to stay safe when we are out hiking, or just being outside in general. Because let's be honest, we had a really hot summer. A lot of folks stayed inside and they're just now venturing out. So what would be some of your just immediate thoughts when someone says, oh yeah, I'm gonna go out hiking, and in the back of your mind you're thinking, but you haven't been outside in 6 years. How do you not twist an ankle?
That's a great question. Thank you for having me. It's always a delight to be here. The first thing I would say is do your research.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is this state is so beautiful, but there are a lot of unknowns. And we have a lot of amazing resources, and some are local. You know, check with your bike store or even a running store about some good trails. And then from there are some fantastic websites that you can go to. All Trails and Trail Links, they give you all the trails in your area and they describe the trail, which is so important, because I would always go back to do your research.
Yeah. If you are looking at going on a hiking trail, what are some things that you need to have with you, be mindful of, not just knowing the trail, but just, being mindful of if you're going out into the woods?
Yep. So with that, I would say, again, when you look up the trail, when you're researching them, you want to know, is it rocky? Is it rooty? Is it flat? You're going to be climbing, and having good shoes. That is so important. A lot of people say, oh, I've got my old tennis shoes, or maybe I've got a pair of Crocs, or, my Birkenstocks, I'm going to go for a walk. But I would really advise against that, which is why it's important to check with maybe your running store or a local sporting goods store to have some good, the shoe is really an important piece to that.
Because you could roll an ankle.
Yep.
Quickly.
You could. And to that, make sure that you know if the trail is accessed by other animals, meaning are dogs allowed on the trails? Are horses on the trails? Are bikes on the trail? That's important because it changes the surface from flat to a really rutted up, which again changes your footwear. And then, of course, if you do get injured, what are you going to do about that?
And should we have things? Should we take a backpack? Should we have water? Should we have things on us? Even if we're going out for an afternoon or early morning?
Yeah, great question. I would say if you're less than an hour going to be out there, water is fine. If you're between 1 to 2 hours, I call it sugar water. So maybe you have a little Gatorade or Powerade or Flow, something that has a little bit of calories. And then if you're going for longer than that, then certainly food would be important. Maybe you have some trail mix or some beef jerky or some maybe little mini muffins, just something that you can have. So less than an hour water, a little more than that, start thinking calories, and longer than probably 2 to 3 hours would be actual food.
And how are we dressing to go out on the trails? To go hiking?
In layers. I would certainly say start with a great base layer, and then that way you're going to have some long sleeves or a jacket, and you can shed those because it's cool in the morning, so you want to be warm, but as the sun comes up and it does get warmer, you don't want to get hot. So we say if it's cold, you become comfortable. If you're comfortable when you start, then you get hot. So you want to make sure that you have several layers.
You definitely do warm up. That is for sure. What kind of safety precautions should we take? And more along the lines of snake bites or ticks or, there's been so much development, at least in the Little Rock area, that it's pushing wildlife further. And so if you happen to be on a trail and run across something other than
a human.
What kind of safety precautions should we be looking at?
Those are good questions. I would certainly say if you had a first aid class, that would be very helpful. Keep a first aid kit maybe in your car. And there are some great Facebook groups with hiking and biking in Arkansas, they will always, they'll say, hey, I saw these types of snakes, or be aware of I saw a brown bear or a black bear on this trail. So knowing kind of what's out there and then being prepared for it. And probably the best tip I can give you is letting somebody know that you're on the trail. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's a 5-mile loop. I should be back in 2 hours. If you haven't heard from me, come find me, come look for me, but always communicating with somebody. If you take a phone, make sure that you know if you lose cell service, where you lost cell service, because you need to think, I've got to get back there before I can call for help.
And you make an excellent point, because so often cell phones are not working out on some of the trails. That's right. And you might not even give it a second thought. I mean, cell phones are always working, it seems, but not way. There's a reason they call it off the grid.
There is a reason they call it off the grid.
Okay, what if we aren't hiking out in the Ouachita National Forest, for example, but we are just, maybe we're taking one of the trails up West Mountain in Hot Springs, or maybe maybe even that's a little too advanced, and we just go for a good walk at Two Rivers Park or over Big Dam Bridge or one of the trails in Conway or something. I mean, again, being mindful of what's on your feet, what's on your body.
Yeah. Yes. And I would always say, carry a light. That's a great tip. If you're going early in the morning, a lot of people wear headlamps or they'll carry a little flashlight. That is so A, you can see, and B, they're aware that you're out there. Mm-hmm. And pay attention. Just pay attention to your surroundings. A lot of people wear headphones, but they can't hear if cars are coming up or there's a rustling in the trees and the bushes. What is that? Is that somebody else, or is that an animal? Or so I think just being aware of your surroundings and having the light. But I'm always going to go back to let somebody know that you are out there and when you get back.
That's excellent advice. Anything else for hiking or outdoor safety as we head into, hopefully, the winter?
Get outside. This is such an amazing state. I hear people say, I go to Colorado, I go to New Mexico, I go to Utah. It's like, yeah, but we're in Arkansas and it's just so beautiful. Take advantage of the opportunities that we have in this beautiful state.
Especially as the leaves start to turn colors, and just, really drink it in.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay. Jayme, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Rebecca Dennison joins us now from Dermatology Group of Arkansas, and we are talking about fall skincare. Rebecca, thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Hopefully, we are headed into fall.
Yes.
We may still get a few spurts of hot temperatures, but at least in our minds anyway, we are headed into the fall season. So what needs to be taking place as it relates to our face, maybe even the lotions on our hands, our legs?
Sure.
What do we do?
Yeah, well, you have to think about, so obviously the air is going to be less humid. It's going to be starting to get kind of drier, cooler, which is great. But in the summer we tend to stick with lighter skincare products because you don't want anything too heavy on your skin. We're just kind of doing less, I feel like, in the summer. Mm-hmm. So as the fall kind of turns around, it's a good time to kind of switch to maybe a thicker moisturizer. That's probably the number one change that you're going to see. Okay. You're still going to be doing your sunscreen. I mean, at fall, you're still out, enjoying the weather. So you still want to be doing a sunscreen like you would in the summer. But you tend to do a little bit more moisturizing. That's probably the number one thing. And then some people will even kind of switch up their face washes and the products they're using with that. In the summer, we may do more of a lighter cleanser, foaming cleansers, and then we kind of switch fall into more of a hydrating cleanser. Okay. And it also depends on your skin type and all of that as well.
I know we're talking primarily about the ladies, but what about the men? They need to be doing skincare
That's
too.
Right, they do. So I think the biggest thing with men is going to be what's the simplest, easiest, quickest thing that I can do. So if you can kind of simplify it, one of my favorite recommendations is a moisturizer sunscreen combo in the morning, because you're going to probably want a moisturizer, but you still want to be using a sunscreen. And so if you can get that kind of combination product, then, you can wash your face, throw it on, you're ready to go. Right. And so a lot of men like that. But they very well, men can do the same things as women. It's just a lot of them choose not to, which is fine.
You know, we see that meme where the man has a 5-in-1, you know, body wash,
Yes.
shampoo, conditioner, face wash, and cologne. And then the woman has like 75 bottles in the shower for all of her things.
Yes,
so.
definitely. That's so true.
So, of course, these are steps we're taking in the fall season. But then when we get into the winter season, will we be changing things up yet again? Or will some of that thickness, some of that moisturizer kind of carry us through until we get to like March or April?
I think for some people that's the case. If you tend to have more oily skin, you probably can do a thicker cream and you're fine. But there are people who really, really struggle with dryness in the fall and winter, and especially in the winter. So there's things you can do, added things to your skincare routine that can really help. One of them that's kind of become more popular recently is a B5 hydrating serum.
Tell me about that. I haven't heard it.
So it's a vitamin B5, and it basically locks moisture into the skin. It pulls moisture in and keeps it there. And it's a serum usually. You can find it in creams and moisturizers, but most of the time it works best in a serum. And you can get it over the counter. There's brands over the counter, like La Roche-Posay is a really popular brand.
Yeah.
And then there's more medical grade brands like SkinCeuticals that have a vitamin B serum. And they work really well to not feel like you have something heavy on your skin.
Okay.
But so you would do what we suggest is thinnest to thickest. So you put the serum on first and then your moisturizer. Okay. The other alternative that a lot of people do in the winter is adding in hyaluronic acid serum. And hyaluronic acid is similar. It draws water into the skin, creates plumpness, fullness, but also hydrates. So those are two ways you can kind of add in extra moisturization.
And would you use both of those serums in the morning, at night, both?
Yeah, you can do both.
Okay.
Or you could do, just one or the other if you, don't need, day and night. But you can definitely do it both for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a great tip. Would this also be a good time to do microdermabrasion?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of it.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Really in the summer, we're not doing a whole lot of procedures because you're in the sun a lot. You don't want downtime. Microdermabrasion is a great thing to do in the fall and winter. It kind of resurfaces the skin, which is nice. You can kind of think of it as an easy way to explain it is it's like a sandpaper to the skin. It kind of takes off that top layer. But it's really nice to do for sun damage and kind of pigmentation changes to, get rid of all that summer damage that you might have done.
And along those same lines, does it kind of help clear out the pores to like suck all the junk?
Yes, it does.
Out?
Yes. Yeah. So it does. It kind of just sort of, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It sucks out the pore. Everything that's in the pores kind of cleans them out. Now, it can make them a little bit smaller too. But yes, you get that benefit as well.
And with something like that, what's the recommendation? Once a quarter, a couple times a year, every month?
I think once a quarter is a really good rule of thumb to do.
Yeah.
Now, you might want to take a break in the summer, but a lot of people choose to kind of load up on skincare procedures in the fall and winter. And you can even do them into the spring as well.
And with something like that, it's very easy. It's not very time consuming. Right. It doesn't require any kind of downtime or anything like that.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why that's so popular is because you really can go back to your normal routine the next day. It's not like you're out for a whole week with redness and peeling and all that. You just really don't have that with microdermabrasion.
Good.
So
good.
Yeah.
Becca, anything else we need to be thinking about as we get into the fall season?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, we're still outside in the fall. And so you really still want to do your sunscreen, your wide brim hat. Really don't forget to do those little steps because you're still, out and getting sun.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Becca, thank you so much for joining us
thanks
today.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next week for more AFMC TV.